67154. That's the number I was known by, inmate 67154. But that was only one of my booking numbers. I had one for Clark County in Nevada, San Bernardino County in California, Mojave County, Arizona, and one for the Nevada Department of Corrections. I even had a booking number for the feds. They labeled me habitual criminal. I've spent over 20 years locked up, but I didn't even care. Doing time isn't a big deal. It's just time. Nothing about that time transformed me. I would get released and go straight back to everything that I was doing before I was locked up. I would even prepare for the next crime while I was still on the yard. My first felony was a DUI. This is when everything changed. Before I was a hard-working guy, but I liked to drink. Once I caught a DUI conviction, I saw myself different. Those years in jail with the other felons made me believe that I was a criminal, and more I started to act like one. I spent 4 years in high desert prison, and that's when I became a real criminal. When I got out that first time, I went back to work in construction, but in those days, everybody in construction was doing dope. On payday, we would put all our money together and buy a bunch of dope and get high all week on the job. One day I was at the dope man's house buying drugs with my co-workers, and I saw a bunch of drugs and cash laying around. And I thought, man, I could just rob this guy, and he couldn't even go to the police. So I planned my first robbery, and it was easy. Within 10 minutes, I was in and out. I had thousands in cash and pounds of dope. So the next week I went into work and I quit my job as a foreman at a construction company, and I started my new life robbing drug dealers. I can't say that was the safest choice of professions, but it was lucrative, and I was good at my new job, and I was smart. Never took everything. I always left them something so that 6 months later I could rob them again. Everything was going well. I made so much money robbing drug dealers that I didn't even need to sell drugs. I just gave it away. And I quickly became very popular in Las Vegas. But I also got the attention of the cops. Within a year, I was picked up on some kind of charges, and I spent multiple stints at the Clark County Jail. My last conviction was in 2013 for a burglary. At that point in my life, I was making credit cards, a skill that I learned hanging out with other criminals. One day I decided to buy a new Corvette Z06. I thought I was hustling the sales rep, but he had his own hustle, and he gladly sold me the car and then quickly reported it to the police. For whatever reason, that term was different. I had 2 daughters, ages 4 and 9, and it just tore me apart that I couldn't be with them. It was the worst day of my life, knowing that I wouldn't see them for the next 5 years. So for that term, I decided to remove myself from the mix. I stopped hanging out on the yard where all the trouble happens. Instead, I started programming. I got my adult high school diploma. I went to anger management classes, Crossroads, and I got a prison job. I spoke to my caseworker, and because I'd been doing so well, they gave me a transfer to Northern Nevada to a work camp where they had more programs. From there, I heard about the transitional living home, where I became a community trustee, which means I could go to work for a local employer, go to school, and go to church. This is when I heard about the Jive program through my local community college, and it was my first introduction to getting ahead in a just getting by world. Through the Getting Ahead class, I started to imagine that a normal life could be possible. It was really the first time that I started to believe in myself, and that I could be a successful and productive person. Conforming to normal habits like paying bills on time just seemed like an unachievable reality to me. But because of the tools that I learned through Getting Ahead, I've been able to accomplish more than I could have ever imagined. Right about the time that I completed the Getting Ahead class, I was also finishing my sentence. I already had a job with a good employer, but I needed a place to live. I found a crappy apartment in a crappy neighborhood, but that was all I could afford. That transition was challenging, but the support I got from the Getting Ahead program made all the difference. I can feel my identity slowly changing. I see myself as something other than a habitual criminal. I'm a dad of 2 intelligent daughters. These girls are my pride and joy. But this relationship is broken. Their dad hasn't been around for years, and it's going to take time to mend that relationship, but they are seeing a difference in me. My next step in restoring my identity was to get a driver's license. The guy at the DMV looked at the screen, and he told me that they took my license away in 1982. When I was a criminal, having a valid driver's license was the least of my worries. Typically, I had 13 different felonies in my possession, so misdemeanors were a green light. Then it was time to put some getting ahead principles into place. I went out and opened a bank account, something I had only had once in my life for about a month. I've had this bank account for almost a year now, the longest ever in my life. And I even trust these people with my money now. I had received health insurance through my employer, also something I hadn't had in a very long time. This was a real blessing. After spending years behind bars and using drugs, I've needed to use my health insurance a lot this last year. One of my getting ahead goals was to build my credit score. I went from a credit score of "you don't exist" to 690, which I'm extremely proud of. I was able to get a small auto loan, a secure credit card, and after 6 months, a credit card with a $3,000 limit. Here's a photo of me boarding an airplane to attend and speak at a national conference. What? My old self would have never been able to dream this big. I have new goals, a new mindset, a new focus. I have a heart to help other guys like me who need more than a second chance. They need a 77th chance. Inmate 67154 was my old identity. Here's a new number that I'm associated with. That's my student ID number at Truckee Meadows Community College, where I have people like Travis and Camille who aren't just interested in my education, but want to see me succeed beyond the college campus. And I know I'll succeed because the old identity is gone.